Good Tuesday morning. Welcome to Ocala Talks on Election Day. That's right, the runoffs for the Ocala City Council. The polling booths are open. You need to go decide the fate of District 3 and District 4. Galen Unall from Life South joins us. He does every day. Galen, good morning. I know this is something that you take very seriously, voting.
Well, it is, and I think a lot of people in our country, as you can tell by the turnout, don't think it's that big of a deal. They take it for granted, and it's frustrating. You know, I mean, when you look at images from all over the world, when a country is finally able to throw off their oppressors, and they can cast a vote, what that means, and in this country, we just don't feel that way. We just take it for granted.
It's almost like being
and it's shameful, and it's across the footprint, and it's not one demographic. It's all across the footprint. And it frustrates me.
It's almost like being a Floridian. Somebody asked me that yesterday, and I said it's almost like being a Floridian. They go, "What do you mean? How can you draw a correlation?" I go, "Well, you know, we're in the vacation capital of the world, Florida. It's one of the 3 or 4 vacation capitals in the world." And sometimes we take it for granted because we live here 365 days a year. So we don't realize that people in Spain and people in London and people in England and people in Germany, people in Asia, sometimes take their entire life savings to bring an entire family over here to vacation for 10 days. You know, I know people that will go to Orlando and they come from Europe, and I've talked to them and I go, "How much is this setting you back?" And they go, 12,000 euros for the whole family. And then, that's 10, 12, 15,000 American. And I think, but it's just Florida. So sometimes we take Florida for granted. And I think as voters and as Americans, we take our freedom and our duty to vote for granted. And so we don't get as excited about it as, say, somebody who's been oppressed all their lives would get about it. I think our apathy and our taking it for granted is just an American thing that has been bred because for 240 plus years, we've had peaceful elections without people having to stand with assault rifles and weapons to guard the voting boxes and everything. We don't know the strife of actual voting for your freedom like our founding fathers knew 240 some odd years ago. And I think we're lazy and we just don't understand. We take it for granted. And I think that's exactly what you were saying.
Well, it's apathetic.
It is. It's apathy at its best.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. My vote doesn't count. And that's been driven into us as a society for a long, long time. Because let's be clear, when there's a low voter turnout, that means the elites win.
Yep.
It just
100%.
When you don't vote, it means you're not participating in democracy. That's the bottom line. It means you don't care if we live in a democracy or a tyrannical government. It means you do not care. Bottom line, it means you don't care. It's hard for me to, and I think voting's much more personal to me because it was something we talked about in my house every single election. My mom would bring me when she voted every single time, and it was an important part of growing up was elections matter.
It did.
Whether your candidate won or lost isn't the point.
You were part of the process. Right. You were part of the process.
And very few people. And look at how many people. I mean, we have a pretty important election for our city, which matters more and has a bigger impact than nearly every election we're going to have. I mean, it is microscopic government. And who we elect today is going to set the path for where this city goes for the next 2, 3, maybe 10 years. Well, I guess I can't be in office that long. But you understand the point. I mean, it's going to set the tone.
At least for the next.
Everything that happens in this city.
At least for the next 2 years. And let's say, for instance, Ty Schlichter and Kristen Dreyer win. For the next 2 years, that's huge because they both represent the Builders Association, contractors. Barry is already on there. Barry Mansfield's already on there as a contractor. You will have 3 out of the 5 that have a single interest. The driving force behind them is a single interest group. That's not good for government, in my opinion.
Right, and we seem to take these massive swings back and forth between these interest groups, and part of me is like, yeah, I think that we need to grow. But we also need to grow in a smart manner.
We need to be diversified. We don't need. We know what real estate and building, which is very important to our community, by the way. But we know when you only put your eggs in 2 baskets, construction, real estate, and horses. We know what happens there. We saw it in 2008 when the economic downturn took, when the real estate bubble burst, and Ocala and Marion County almost bankrupted itself because it was only invested in, for the most part, in building, construction, real estate, and the horse industry. We know what happens when you only got two main interest groups. We know what happens then if something bursts. We get in serious trouble.
Right. Well, and after this election, then we got to look at the county commissioners, and the same is true there. And again, I get it. Not everybody lives in the city and has this opportunity to vote, but if you do, I sure hope you get out there and vote. And by the way, registering vote has never, ever been easier. And voting, the act of voting, could not be simpler. And again, people care more about the president than the city council, and to me, that's reverse according to our Constitution.
Well, I tell people all the time, if you want to know the most important politicians to your day-to-day life, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the U.S. Senate, the U.S. House, the Republican leadership in Washington, they ain't it. The most important politicians in your day-to-day life are your city council and county commission, because they make the ordinances and the mandates that affect your day-to-day life through property taxes, and the school board with the school taxes, and where you can go into buildings and without a mask or something on like that on a local level. They make the people that make the laws that affect your local life are much more important than the people that make national laws that affect the masses. And people, for some reason, I can't get that through to people.
Well, and again, it's just apathy. I mean, how many of these people care what goes on at these city meetings? And again, I'm glad
a city with a $500 million budget, by the way. Just a small amount.
Sure. Well, and again, this election's going to have a lot of ramifications. We've talked about it a lot. The future of the city manager and the direction of the city is on the line. And if that's not big enough for you to care and to go cast a vote, then why don't you move?
Yeah. Former city councilman Matt Wardell.
I'm serious.
I agree with you.
Do not care.
I agree with you. Former city councilman Matt Wardell said it best.
Many things with Matt Wardell, but he gets it like few do.
Yeah. He said it better than anybody when one of the last city council meetings he was in, when he said that you people, and he was referring to the people that were getting up and walking out of the meeting, he stopped. He goes, you people are the problem. You come in here and you want to bitch and complain about a fire chief or the city manager firing the fire chief or whatever. You want to do that, and as soon as that's over, you get up and you march out of the room. We're about to make a decision on a $27 million item. You could care less. But gosh, don't let somebody get fired that you think shouldn't have been fired, because that's important. But to the way the city spends $27 million, who cares? Just spend it however you want to. And he's right about that.
Right. Yeah, and the same is true with like the pronouns that got all
Yeah,
kinds of
yeah.
types
200
of
people showed up
publicity.
for his and her or they and them, and then there was a $5 million agenda item, the very next item, and people walked out.
Sure.
Who 5 million? Who cares? Go ahead, whatever.
Well, and the truth is the Matt didn't help himself with the way he released it on Twitter. I think he really wanted to fire people up. But and then when you read the ordinance, you're like, well, of course. You know, I'm like, this. What do we? Of course, it should not be. In today's day and age, everything can't be he and him. I think everybody. I think that's just common sense.
Yeah, well, that's another problem in this world. That's why I did a show called Common Sense with Tom Schmitz. When I am the voice of common sense, you know we got a problem in the world.
Not good.
Well, you know we got a problem. We got a problem.
So how many people are going to vote today? 2,500?
No, well, they've already got,
3,000?
they according to the election officials, they've already got almost 3,000 mail-in ballots.
Oh, that's good. So maybe they'll get to 5.
They may get to 5,000.
Wow, that would be an incredible turnout.
Which would be half of the turnout from the general election, which still wasn't very good, only 20-something%.
Sure.
You know, so we got to take a break. More with Galen, you know, we come back after this timeout, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM. This is WOCA.
And by the number of required votes, the more influence money has on the election.
There you go.
I mean, we really need to question why someone would spend over $100,000 on a job that pays $100 a month or $200 a month.
Right now, I need to pay bills. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
Are you or your loved one being released from a hospital and wondering how you'll manage? Inform your physician that you want to go to Palm Garden of Ocala at 2700 Southwest 34th Street for your rehabilitation. Palm Garden provides pain management, post-discharge follow-up, diabetic care, psychosocial support, and so much more. Plus, they even offer outpatient rehab. This award-winning care facility has a team of licensed professionals dedicated to enhancing your independence. Call 352-854-6262 today.
Are you wasting time boxing up packages and going to the post office or the UPS store? Are you tired of not knowing what you'll pay when you get there? Just Ship offers pickup service and flat rate packaging and postage rates, which takes the guesswork out of shipping while saving you time and money. So quit wasting valuable time and money. Call or text Just Ship at 352-234-3840. That's 352-234-3840. Just Shipped.
Now you've done it. Have you lost your mind? He's back. And you're listening again. A legend in his own mind. Don't believe me? Just ask him. Here's Tom Schmitz live on WOCA. The Source.
Welcome back to Ocala Talks on a Tuesday. It is election day. Galen, you know, and I been talking the election. Galen, and you know, something that doesn't help is all these, you got to weed through all of the propaganda that all the people are putting out. And I give you a prime example. The United Christians of Florida Political Action Committee endorsed the candidate. And the United Christians of Florida Political Action Committee has been a defunct PAC since 2016. I checked the records. They hadn't been active since 2016. The last post on their Facebook page was 2016. But now all of a sudden they're endorsing a candidate in 2021.
Well, and again, that's what happens. This is the kind of thing that happens when very, very few votes can swing this election in either direction. People realize, oh, I can buy this election. And let's be clear, when you buy an election, it does two things. One, it means you own that candidate, and that candidate's beholden to what you want them to do. And two, it makes everybody more apathetic about elections. And so it's a perfect storm for these people who want to control your lives. And if you don't believe that politicians and government wants to control your life, then you've been asleep for the last 2 years. I mean, we're looking at a vax mandate, which got to that national level because of the constant small steps that these politicians made throughout their career, and they realized the higher up I go, the more power I get. That's the bottom line, and the richer that I become. And so you better choose the people on a local level that at least support your ideals. And the best way to control that money is to get out and vote. It's the bottom line.
The bottom line, that's the way you have to do it. And, you know, and here's what gets me, is I'm seeing groups that, you know, like the Fraternal Order of Police for the Ocala Police Department, their union, endorsed one candidate. And so now the other candidate's going out and getting individual police officers to endorse them. This is the craziest election I've ever seen, where so much money was spent. I think $70,000 were raised in each race between the candidates. $140,000 total in District 3 and District 4 between these candidates for a job that pays $200 a month.
But again, look how they, you know, and a lot of people thought she had a legitimate chance of winning. And again, it's just amazing.
I don't understand $140,000 in an election that pays for $200 a month for District 3 and District 4. And by the way, that money comes from people who now think whatever candidate wins is probably beholden to them because of the money they gave them.
Correct. Well, and let's be very, very clear. If that candidate wins, we're still wearing masks, right? And that has a trickle effect, because if that candidate were to win the mayoral race, or even there was Osteen spent a ton of money on the city council position.
Oh, Greg Steen spent a ton of money.
Then that translates over to the school board, and now our kids are wearing masks in school. And then they're starting to talk about vaccine mandates for our children. And you're like, oh, that's crazy. No. It's happening all over the country.
Yeah.
I'm in a city where that already happened. They finally let go of the mask mandate here in Gainesville like 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
2 weeks ago,
finally
if I
gave it up.
walked
Yes.
into a restaurant,
you had to wear a mask.
I had to wear a mask.
Till you sat down at the
Think
table.
about that.
Look, and I'm a firm believer.
35 miles away.
I'm
35 miles away.
I've been in the restaurant business for most of my life till I got in the radio, and I had no idea the medical ability of a table in a restaurant. I had no idea. No clue the barrier that a restaurant table had against bacterial diseases, viral disease. I had no idea how good a table was at keeping those things away from you. Had no clue.
Yeah, like 6 feet. I mean, come on. This is what happens.
It's control. Capital C, capital N, capital C, capital O, capital N, capital T, capital R, capital O, capital L. Control.
That's correct.
So, you know, I know that, you know, you hold stuff close to the vest, but I'm not going to ask you who you voted for, but did you go vote or did you send in your early ballot?
Yeah, I voted like 3 weeks ago. My whole family did. Well, those that are eligible.
Right.
My youngest son is not.
So
yeah.
No dead relatives with a ballot, though, or anything?
Say that again?
No dead relatives that got a ballot. They were able to vote, nothing like that.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Well, Wesley Wilcox does a good job with his elections. Just ask him.
Yeah, he actually does.
He does a really good job. He does a really good job.
He just needs to, and by the way, the supervisor election just needs to keep his mouth shut. But he does. But you know, part of what the political machine does to keep you from voting is by telling you that there's election fraud, and I can't stand that. Now, if there is election fraud, we should wipe it out, right? We should definitely wipe it out, but you got to prove it first.
So, can I ask you a question? And I want an honest answer. Even with all we're talking about, with the empathy and everybody needs to go out and vote and everything, isn't there a little part of you that's looking forward to tomorrow and all this is done for another year or so?
Yeah.
Isn't there a small part
I
of
love
you?
this stuff. Sure.
You know,
well, and
I don't
you know,
want it to be
I
over.
like politics. So.
I don't want it to be over. I'll be honest with you. I do not want it to be over because for the last 2.5, 3 months, I hadn't had to do much. I just show up, turn the microphones on, and go. You know?
But the reason I think elections are fun is because it tells you what's important to your community. Right? I mean, you look at the issues especially with the runoffs. There is and I didn't think this was going to happen with the mayoral race, but there is a race to the right.
Yes.
Each candidate is trying to prove just how conservative they are.
Even if they're not. Even if they're not, they're trying to prove how conservative they are.
Even if they voted for Obama twice.
Right.
You know, and said some pretty terrible things about DeSantis, and by the way, a lot of the candidates did. So I think it's kind of fascinating.
It really is fascinating, all the different angles in this election. You got one person running that has a criminal history and propensity to lose his temper. You have another person running who doesn't want to anger anybody, so he never makes a decision one way or the other, except depending on what he thinks the room is going to think, is how people portray him. You got one woman who's running who is a reformed liberal who is now a Republican, but voted for President Obama twice. And you have another woman running that said that our sheriff and governor were national jokes, national embarrassments for not coming up with supporting the mask mandate. So there's a lot of fodder out there, but none of that addresses the issues that I think we need to address, and they've all had to deal with this fodder without talking about the issues that really face the city, in my opinion.
Well, nobody's talking about the 7-Eleven, which, let's be clear,
is aggravating you because it's being built right in your backyard.
Man, and again, if you haven't been on 17th, once you start getting to the Publix right there on 17th with the new Wawa, it just gets bad.
Well, that's 7-Eleven, but
look,
the way to
that
7-Eleven, because it's going to open, it's going to take so much traffic as people go to that 7-Eleven that it'll lessen the traffic on the road because they'll be going to 7-Eleven. It's
you mean so people aren't going to drive in and out? They're not going to try to
no,
cross
but they'll be in the parking lot.
Traffic.
They'll be in the parking lot so much it'll lessen the traffic on the road. Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. What's going to happen is people are going to try to cut across 2 lanes of traffic to make a left turn out of that 7-Eleven. And I guarantee
they better not do. They better have an right turn only out of that parking lot.
I'll guarantee you, 7-Eleven, that's the last thing we want to do.
Believe me, I know. Hey, we didn't even talk about that the jury has the case in Wisconsin. Oh my goodness, we need another 30 minutes, but we don't have it.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that election at all. Yeah.
Oh well, maybe we'll talk about the jury will have a decision. We can talk about it tomorrow with the election results. Hey, Galen, where's the Bloodmobile today?
Hey, Bloodmobile today, we're at the Walmart in Summerfield, but as always, we are in a national shortage. This has become a really big problem, so please just get out there, give the gift of life, and donate blood.
Galen, from Life South. Galen, talk to you tomorrow, pal.
All right, bye, all.
He's right. Go out and give the gift of life. Give blood. We're in a national shortage, and the life you save may be your own. We'll be right back after this timeout on WOCA, The Source.
Broadcasting from the Ocala International Airport, this is WOCA AM, W242CA FM, Ocala, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Today in Ag News. USA Radio News with Lance Pry.
President Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping held a virtual meeting for 3+ hours Monday night. It was Tuesday morning in China. The two leaders discussed disagreements over Taiwan and human rights. It should be noted neither leader brought up the subject of COVID-19 that has killed millions of people worldwide. President Biden signed a $1 trillion infrastructure bill into law Monday. This will allocate billions to states and local governments to upgrade outdated roads, bridges, and transit systems. The South Lawn ceremony was attended by 800 invited guests. Pfizer has agreed to a licensing deal with the